Now, after playing the Diablo 4 beta and trying out all the different classes and all the content the beta had to offer, we made a conclusion, we got to a consensus on what the game would need and possibly things that can be introduced or implemented once the game goes live. Now, the developer team has stated there will be a deep dive on the beta feedback. However, until then, I think they're still gathering up all the information they could possibly gather from like forums and YouTube videos and Reddits and tweets and all of that. I guess that's a lot to take in, and hopefully they can implement some of the feedback or at least have some promises to be made in future patches or whatever. It's a pretty short window for them to do a lot of changes to the game, but there is still some possibility. So without further ado, let's look at the top 5 improvements Diablo 4 could make use for. The first one, for me at least, was the camera zoom and the angle. Now, traditionally, you wouldn't mind this too much in an ARPG game, and the proper vision for the player and the character, the mobs and everything is top-down. There's no gripe with that. However, I feel that the zoom within Diablo 4 is a little bit too much, like it's too much zoomed in, so maybe have it more zoomed out or at least give an option for it. I'm not sure about the angle either. I guess in time you can get used to that. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but it definitely felt, at least on PC from time to time, that the camera was a little bit too much zoomed in. Now, the zoom in, you can definitely zoom in to like look at details and stuff, but maybe a little bit more zoom out, like a further distance away could be a big hit. I know there's the argument that some people would prefer like this because you would want to get some sort of jump scare or whatever. That's fine. I'm just saying one of the improvements would be to give us the option to zoom out a little further. It's just my 2 cents. Now, the second one, I need to place some context for this one. So this is 100% inspired by something out of World of Warcraft. Now, obviously, we have a lot of World of Warcraft experience on top of our Diablo experience, so make no mistake, this is coming from that place. And the context for it is that sometimes you don't really feel the correct or the most impactful feedback from your skills or legendary aspects or whatever. This is not a problem per se. This is again very subjective and something that I would like to see in the game, but a somewhat of a damage meter to actually see some numbers on how much the skills or legendary aspects contribute to your damage. Again, you can see the numbers on your screen and you basically can see how fast the mobs die or whatever. I just feel that some sort of way to like get numbers or get a little bit more detail on your different builds or whatever and specific abilities with legendary aspects that are all tied into builds would go a long way for like nerds like me. I know not everyone would love this, but I don't see it as being something like a huge game changer to be introduced. Once again, World of Warcraft has an add-on for this. They don't put this out in the game by default, but if it was made possible through an add-on for WoW, I don't see what the big deal would be. It would just go a long way to actually see this. The third option, and I know a lot of feedback has been given on this, us included, right at the first early open beta. So the third improvement would actually be the UI and menus. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about the UI when you play the game, because you're like more concentrated on what your character is doing and seeing all the beautiful landscapes and how the mobs die and all of that. But we can talk about the UI in the menu, the UI for the talents, basically everything that is outside of your actual gameplay. I don't know, man, it just feels weird. It looks off. It's maybe too saturated, too much colorful. It's like a little bit opposed to what you see with your character. I don't mind the icons they used. I don't actually mind the little like health bar and resource bar, or rather globes. They're not bars, they're globes. But everything else could make for an improvement. Now, overhaul is a big word, I know, and they're probably not going to do that in the capacity of like, okay, scrap everything started from the zero and build it up from there. But I'm pretty sure they can do some tweaks and adjustments for it to make it look a little bit more in theme with the actual gameplay. That's all I'm saying. I know there's a ton of options in the menu. You can like make your fonts smaller and stuff like that. But once again, the whole layout of it's a little bit weird. I love the fact that you have like the same old Diablo 2 introduction menu where you can pick your class or whatever. But apart from that, I don't really vibe with a lot of it. And I've seen a lot of people kind of agree with this as well. So third improvement might be just an UI overhaul. If not an overhaul, at least some sort of changes to make it more in line with the other visuals of the game. Now, the fourth improvement is actually more related to PC users, because if you've played on a PC, you probably experienced this. If not, well, more kudos to you. But I know for a fact, having friends who played the Diablo 4 beta on console, they had a blast with no issues similar to what I have. Of course, everybody had the disconnects and the lag, but in terms of like optimization for PC, it felt pretty lackluster. It felt more optimized for console than PC, which I can totally get. It's fine, but you have to remember at the end of the day, it's still a Diablo game. Its core audience would still be PC, and I love playing Diablo on the console. Don't get me wrong. It's just it doesn't feel right for the game to not feel as optimized for PC users. So the fourth improvement would actually be a better optimization for PCs. We all know the problem with the 380. A lot of folks complained about. I personally had a couple of graphical glitches as well. Sometimes the inputs from the mouse and the abilities not working really great. So there's definitely room to improve on that, and I think it will go a long way, especially since I've read it on the Diablo Reddits and forums. A lot of folks are actually thinking about upgrading their PCs or buying some new PCs to be able to play Diablo 4 in June. Now, optimization for PC, I don't think it's a long shot. I don't think it's something big to ask, and I'm pretty sure they're aware of it, but this will definitely make the game better on launch. So, fourth one, better optimization for PCs. The last one. Now, the last one, I also tweeted to Adam Fletcher about this. I didn't get an answer. Maybe this will be addressed in the Diablo 4 beta deep dive from the developers. But the fifth one would be to improve the scaling of mobs in the world around you with your character. Now, hear me out on this. Because they actually adopted this method of the world scaling with you, so once you level up, everything around you also levels up, mobs, dungeons, dungeon bosses, all of that. You cannot escape the feeling that you're not really growing more powerful as you grow in level, but weirdly enough, it's kind of like backwards. You feel weaker since like a lot of your power will come from multiple legendaries and legendary aspects and stuff, which can be fine to some point, but I'm just saying, as an improvement, the fifth one, the last one, the mob scaling with your character needs to be toned down. And what I mean by this, so obviously there's some numbers behind this, right? Once you level up, all of the attributes of the mobs and the bosses and all that, they also level up. Have those attributes be a little bit lower so you actually get this sense of becoming stronger as you level up. It's a weird place in a Diablo game to not visit, let's say, older zones you had troubles with in the past and not just like steam through it, but rather always being difficult. Maybe not everybody agrees with this, but I think it's a core aspect of an RPG where you would level up and become more stronger, and this is not the case with Diablo 4, at least it was not in the beta. The scaling technology, I understand it. I've seen it in multiple games. It's in World of Warcraft as well. It's fine to some extent. Like, I don't exclude it, but it needs to be done in a way where you don't feel you're regressing. This is a very odd feeling you get sometimes in Diablo 4 because not everybody will be as lucky with legendaries, and you have to remember this beta had legendary drops very much increased. This will not be the same experience on launch, and I'm pretty sure the majority of people who will play Diablo 4 will expect to become stronger or feel stronger once they gain access to a new talent point or passive ability or passive point or whatever, and they grow in level. And again, it didn't feel that way at all, especially at launch where you're going to have close to no legendaries moving forward, maybe a couple of rares or something like that. but it's gonna be a weird experience. And I feel like out of all of the 5, I think this one is the most important one for them to take into consideration. Okay, it's pretty much impossible to remove the scaling system because it's a huge undertaking, I get that, but have it tweaked in such a manner where, again, you would feel you're getting stronger and stronger as you're leveling up, as you're getting access to more talent points and abilities. So, just to wrap it up, number 1, better camera zoom and angle, or at least give the option to like zoom out. Number 2, some sort of damage meter in some capacity to see how your skills or legendary aspects contribute to your damage. Number 3, an UI overhaul, the menu, the colors from the menu, the sizing, everything around it. Number 4, better optimization for PCs. And number 5, the mobs scaling with your characters to be toned down. Now, do you agree with this? Do you have like some more improvements Diablo 4 could use at launch? Leave it down in the comments, let me know what you think, and let's start a discussion about this. Who knows, maybe we'll get into the Diablo 4 beta deep dive. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe, that's very necessary if you want to get more Diablo content. Bye!